Hi everyone, I'm Jamie from The Noble Artist. I want to welcome you all to the first video interview we're doing for the nobleartist.com blog. We're hoping to do a whole load of these interviews with people from the creative industries to see how their relationships work together, and by that I mean authors, artists, tabletop designers, video game designers, and hopefully gain some insights into how to get into the industry, how to stay in the industry, the things that help you during your time there, like social media, promoting yourself, Kickstarters to kickstart your idea, your campaign, and hopefully you'll gain something from this. The first interview we've got today is with Joel Norden from Knights of the Northwest, who's releasing his second anthology of short stories, and this time with some really big names within the fantasy genre, so really exciting stuff. I hope you enjoy the video, I hope you get something from it, and please leave some comments. It'd be great to hear from you. Thanks a lot, enjoy. Welcome Joel Norden of the Knights of the Northwest and the Dragon Band series. Thanks for being here, man.
Thanks for asking. All right, so I'm, like you said, Joel Norden. I'm president of Knights of the Northwest LLC, publishing company. We specialize in fantasy publishing. At the moment, we only have one series that's in the works, but we have several more planned. I think we have like 2 or 3 more. I'm also the creator of the Dragon Band setting.
Nice.
For our publishing company. Yes, and that's come a long way. I've been working on that for a long time. So,
How long have you been working on that for, would you say?
Oh, I think since I was 13.
Wow, that's good going.
That's been a long time.
That's a good imagination level as well at that age to kind of like to be able to kind of start working on that, and then sort of see it through as well. Because I'm sure kind of the things that I was thinking about when I was 13 probably have absolutely no relevance to today at all.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, there's been a lot of updating.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
Yeah.
So, I mean, because when we sort of have spoken before, you've mentioned Dragonlance and all that sort of stuff, which you said. Did you say your dad got you into that?
Yeah. Yep. My dad got me into that, and then my uncles piled on as well. And
nice. Yeah,
cool. They let me borrow books. So I got hooked on Dragonlance, and from there I was done. I was been reading all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, nice. I'm so jealous of that situation because I remember trying to DM for my parents when I was about probably 12 years old, and it was the most, I mean, looking back, the most embarrassing thing, they just couldn't get their head around the idea that this game had no kind of sort of start and end as such. So it's like, it's sort of like, so when does this game end? It's like, the dinner's going to be on in like an hour. It's like, we can carry on after dinner. Like, this could go for days. It's fine. Don't worry about it. So yeah, I'm very envious of that. But so what's going on with Knights of the Northwest at the moment? I know that we've worked together recently, which is awesome, and I've really enjoyed that. But yeah, tell me about that.
Right now, like I said, Knights of the Northwest is only really, we're working on Dragon Band at the moment, and right now we've got a novel planned for myself. I'm writing a novel, and awesome. On top of that, we're getting ready to start a Kickstarter here in April for a anthology of Monsters and Valons.
Nice.
And so that's going to revolve around monster hunters and monsters. So kind of cool theme.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But, so like a Van Helsing, but kind of more with a kind of like kind of like I guess
a little more fantasy to it. Yeah. So
because I've seen the Kickstarter already, had a cheeky little look at what's going on underneath the under the radar at the moment. And I know there's a few big names in there. Can you mention any of those names at the moment, or? Oh
yeah, definitely. So we've got Richard A. Knaak.
Nice. Okay.
Yep. We've got several other. We got Lucy A. Snyder. We've got Aaron Rosenberg.
Wow.
I know stretch goals. We've got Richard Lee Byers, Ed Greenwood, and Mel Odom.
Some huge names. That's awesome. How did you get started? Obviously, kind of when you were 13, you were sort of obviously interested in fantasy and stuff. But how did you get started writing about fantasy?
Well, funny enough, I really had no clue about fantasy. My uncle, he introduced me to tabletop role playing. I think it was Rollmaster.
Okay, nice.
So. Yeah, so we were playing that, and first it took me a little bit to get my head around, but when you're younger, your imagination is easy to adapt to that.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, so like I said, from there, my dad saw I was getting into fantasy, and he got into Dragonlance in the military, so he introduced some books to me, so I started reading that, and then my uncle started giving me some books, and then I think from there it was like Shannara, Terry Brooks,
nice.
stuff like, and Wheel Time. Yeah, it was
So,
from there I've been hooked.
Were you kind of did you start off just by kind of like using the characters that were involved in those books, or did you kind of sort of like start off with your own stuff, or?
Well, really, it kind of started with so we love playing so much. We started making our own stuff because we didn't, we couldn't buy our own books and stuff.
Yeah.
We tried to fit a system together. I'm sure if I looked at it now, it wasn't very good, but it worked for us.
I remember doing the same sort of thing. I remember trying to also, spoke to you before about trying to get my parents to role play with me, but also trying to force my dad to play Warhammer Fantasy Battles with me, but not understanding the rules at all, and kind of like and he managed to game my system so badly, like I just lost every time at my own rules. It was awful. But yeah, no, those moments are you kind of like you just remember, don't you? Kind of like, and I definitely sort of those pointers like kind of along, you kind of can see where you've come, and then sort of when you get your first bestseller, you'd be like, there it is, kind of sort of like, that's awesome.
Milestone.
There's a lot of people I imagine who are watching this who would be interested in when you feel like you had your first kind of breakthrough, your first kind of moment that felt that you were, a professional author. So kind of like when can you pinpoint that so far? Like,
honestly, I felt like the breakthrough for me was just getting my first published. The Crossroads of Drastin, getting some content out there that I've done, and I felt great because it's been a long time in coming. So, really though, for me, I think just everything coming together. I think it was like 2 years ago we set up Knights of the Northwest. And just everything just clicked, and from there, that really felt like the breakthrough to me. But like I said, it felt great. January, I think Crossroads Drastin came out, and that was awesome.
So I guess we spoke about your early sort of kind of influences and stuff. But how do you think that kind of early writing has affected how you write today? Like, have you found flaws that you've rectified? Do you feel, because I was listening to, funnily enough, an interview the other day with an artist who was sort of saying that at school she was, she's called Loish, and she was saying at school she was told not to paint in a certain way by her teachers, but actually that's what she's now become famous for, is that style of painting. And I wonder whether kind of like some of the things that you maybe sort of like kind of grew up and people are like, that's really childish or blah 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 blah, but actually that brings a real kind of fantastical element, I don't know, to your writing. Or has it completely changed, like kind of from when you?
Honestly, I'd say it's completely changed from when I was younger. Honestly, it's all been stepping stones, learning for me. I know it started out with when I first started writing, I just kind of wrote, and I thought that's the kind of writer I would be. I know there's usually two types of writers. There's the plotters, and then there's the people who just kind of roll with it.
Flow,
right? Yeah, and I thought that's the way I was going to do it. So I'll just write. And I think right now, if I wouldn't have done that, I'd probably have like 3 novels out right now, because I'd get halfway through and I'd forget what my characters are looking like. Even though I'm picturing them, I was struggling with them. Like, oh crap, I'm like, that's this person I have. So I had to go back and then now plotting. So I plot everything. I take little tabs. I have my characters and what they look like, even just to help me give a mental picture. And so I think it has come a long way, but there's a lot different that I can imagine.
I think that's sort of actually might be one of my questions to someone else to be speaking to in the coming weeks, is kind of how on earth do you keep track of that sort of like that timeline, and kind of like, didn't that guy fall out with that guy like 2 chapters ago, and sort of like, and you just totally, because I imagine that sometimes what I certainly would do, I'd probably kind of think of something really cool that would happen, but that doesn't happen for like 9 chapters time. So kind of like you write that part while it's in your head, and then you kind of like then backtrack to kind of sort of like where, just because you had that kind of cool moment where that interaction between those 2 characters and it played out beautifully in your mind, you could just want to get it down, like. Oh,
absolutely, yeah. I just did that. Like I said, I'm writing my first book right now. I think I'm a fourth of the way through, and I had it's planned for 3, hopefully, like for a trilogy. And I had an idea for the second one. It was like a movie in my head, and I was like,
nice,
sweet, I might get this down. So I typed her up. But yeah,
no, that's cool.
There's a lot to keep track of. That's what the editing's for, though, too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's actually talking about like movies in your head. That's the tough thing that sort of I quite often encounter when I'm doing like my job, and I talk to authors and stuff, and they're kind of like, they want to maybe kind of throw the introduction of their book as like the cover scene sort of thing, but in their mind, that is a movie scene like kind of playing, but what they get is a still image. So it's sort of like all these different kind of things that happen in angles and stuff, and then you see the back of his head, and then you see like his facial expression change, and I'm like, that's going to be a real struggle to get into like a static picture. Do you know what I mean? Like, so, but I can definitely understand that, and kind of sort of like it must be interesting for you when you speak to your readers, and they have a completely different kind of take on what characters kind of sort of like, you know, their attitudes and what they look like and what have you, like kind of, compared to what you imagine as you're writing. But the incredible things that you're doing with the Kickstarter, you know, kind of like really pulling in these big names and stuff. Like, I'm sure a lot of people will want to know how did you? I mean, I know it's taken me years to kind of build up contacts with people like that, and it's the industry is I suppose the genre is surprisingly kind of close knit. So once you're in, you get to meet a lot of people, but kind of like actually getting that first foot in the door and just being kind of like, hey, you know, this is me, like, you know, pay me attention, like, kind of, do you know what I mean? Like, how do you get the gravity behind you to kind of pull these people in?
Honestly, a lot of social media for me. I added a few to my friends list that were, or I tried to add them, you know, because they're, you know, I've grown up reading them and I absolutely love their work. So that's kind of how it started, and then it kind of turned into more. I was like, you know, they added me and we chit chat every once in a while, you know, on their posts or on mine, you know, whatever. And from there, it kind of bloomed an idea. I was like, well, you know, why not ask some of these to, you know, try writing, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And and I think, honestly, as long as you're not trying to force your own work down their throat, I mean, they'd be more than happy to answer questions and stuff. You had, like, a few questions to ask or whatever. Yeah. They're people just like you and me, you know, so though it's intimidating, I think, for the most part, they're definitely willing to help.
Yeah, I would totally agree. So that's my experience, too. And the funny thing is, kind of, you think kind of the sort of stereotype of the kind of fancy kind of nerd and stuff. I mean, kind of like they just want to meet more people like them, and like I do too.
Exactly.
You know,
work out there as well. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
So
so
happy.
I was lucky enough to go to this convention sort of recently called Dragon Meet in London. And
awesome.
the booth next to me, you would have fit in right there, man. Like with Dragon
fans,
that'd be great. Sure. But the guy next to me was an artist, called Ralph Horsley, who is like he's done so much like Dungeons and Dragons stuff and kind of like stuff that I would just nerded out to like as a kid, and I recognised some of his work. And just like chatting to him throughout the day, it was just like a surreal experience, kind of feeling. I mean, certainly never going to kind of feel like I'm in the same kind of ballpark at all, but just like be able to rub shoulders with him, it was like, oh my god. And then he gave me a signed print at the end of the day, and it just kind of made my day. It's just worth going for that. So
that's awesome.
And I think it really makes you grow as a creative as well. You know, kind of up your game as much as you can do. And
it definitely makes you put all you have into it. You know.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
It's a pleasure meeting those people too. It's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. So. And I mean, so the cool thing is, sort of like, I mean, what a better way to get people to read your work than to do a anthology together, because they're going to definitely read your stuff if it's right next to theirs. Do you know what I mean? Like, what's the secret to you know, a short story? You want to keep it short, but you want to, you know, sort of like, so you're not writing Tolkien levels of detail, but at the same time keep it really engaging, you know, kind of sort of in a way that will kind of keep people kind of captivated and feel like they've kind of like, you know, enjoyed a whole story within a short story.
I honestly struggle a lot with keeping my short stories short, but I think the secret is, you know, you jump in, like if it was a novel where you would jump in would be where like the very ending of what was happening.
Okay, yeah, sure.
So like the climax, if you will.
Yeah.
And so you jump in right there and kind of pick up. See, I like a little more like character building.
Yeah,
so
sure.
like
I
always felt like short stories, I couldn't really connect with them. So I like to have a little bit of slowness, and so it's like a mini quest or a side quest, you know, like an RPG.
I like to do that side quest.
That's kind of the way I roll with it. But I think the key is to kind of jump in like right there at that climax with short stories. And,
no, that's cool.
You know,
I like the idea of a side quest, almost sort of like kind of. That's really fun. Like kind of, I used to run a short kind of story competition type thing, like once a month, just like do a piece of art and be like, you know, kind of throw it out to people and just sort of say, you know, write something about this, and then you can put it on the website and stuff. And yeah, I met some really cool people through it, and I think one of my favourites was the first one that we did by a guy called Bill Goslin, and it was hilarious. It really kind of like the character was so kind of sort of like foolhardy and sort of like, you know, kind of like wanted to be a hero, but kind of like it was never going to work. Like kind of, and it's just it's great. I love that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think those are kind of my favourite kind of stories where you've got a bit of a flawed kind of hero and stuff, and he just kind of bungles his way through. How do you find your voice among other authors and not be directly, because you know the guys that have come before, there's the sort of huge names. How is Joel Norden going to be kind of pulled out amongst that? You know, how do you create that kind of around yourself, and is it just writing in a way that you feel comfortable and kind of hope for the best, or is it a kind of a way that you sort of think, oh, I really like that from that guy, and she writes really well, and kind of that sort of thing, and you kind of build it up from there? How does it work?
Well, for me, really, it's been like from what I've read and people I really enjoy like the authors I really enjoy. It's kind of been like my writing style is like a combination of that. Like, so as I'm reading stuff, like I pick up, I'm like, oh, wow, this is actually really interesting how they did it. So it's like little pieces of, each like writing style and then kind of bring it together. But for me, I mean, it just standing out, it just, do the best work you can possibly do,
Yeah.
Pour yourself into it and, don't let the intimidation, be too much. You got to concentrate on your own writing and hope for the best, So really, it's about...
Yeah, I'm sure of it. Yeah, I mean, I would totally agree. I think sort of it becomes apparent, and this is what I'm so happy to be able to do something that I have always dreamed about doing, which is like to do fantasy artwork, sci-fi artwork, that sort of stuff.
Awesome.
And it the reason I think kind of people do well is when you can see there's genuine like kind of passion there, and someone enjoys it. And I think you the more you enjoy something, the more you practice it because you enjoy doing it, so the better you become. And I think kind of like there's just always that of rising kind of line. So
yeah, you're always kind of challenging yourself to get
exactly.
better.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. So no, I like your kind of your thoughts on that too. That kind of sounds quite similar. So we talked a little bit about kind of other people's perceptions of your characters and stuff. Do you write with pictures of your kind of characters in your mind, or kind of, and how did it feel when I then kind of represented those characters? I mean, they were quite sort of like you gave me a list of characters that would be in there and stuff, so I kind of assumed that they would kind of be guys that you have in your mind at some point. But how does that feel, kind of sort of like when you get those different representations?
Well, first of all, you absolutely spoiled us.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, that was what I was angling for. That's what that whole question was angling for there.
If I remember correctly, I don't think I had any suggestions and change for the cover art you did for us.
That's very kind.
This is fantastic. But I definitely write with the image in my head. A lot of times I'll like look up like if I think somebody like it like looks like an actor or something, especially like if I have in my head that it looks like a certain actor, I'll like picture that actor.
Yeah.
What, like, especially like the descriptive surroundings. Like I was just writing a piece for that's in like a tundra, okay, and they're in a blizzard. So I actually was like I was not feeling it, so I was like I need something. So I looked up. I found this website that had sounds. So I had like wind blowing, and like wolves howling. I was like, all right, yeah, this is better. I feel like I'm there,
That's awesome.
So I could immerse myself better into it in my writing.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely.
That's really cool. I like that idea of kind of putting yourself in that situation. I'm totally the same as well. I kind of tend to. My wife could sort of walk past the office when I'm working and stuff, and I've got some sort of weird kind of sci-fi soundtrack, kind of like just noises going on, sort of like and quite often.
Don't mind me.
Sorry, man. If she ever sees my face as well, because quite often if I'm doing a character and they're doing, I don't know, if they're like fighting someone or something, like I'm putting the exact face that I'm trying to draw. Like kind of, it's just it's so kind of like I'm totally down with that. Trying to put yourself in that position too. So I mean, we've talked about your younger kind of years of writing and stuff. Like kind of, and I mean, if you're anything like me as a fantasy geek and stuff, you probably self-doubted a fair amount and all that sort of thing too. And I think most kids do about kind of what they want to do and this, that, and the other. But if you could go back and just sort of like kind of without creeping yourself out as a kid, go back and tell yourself something. Just be like, hey, I'm you in the future, like Bill and Ted style. What would you do?
I would definitely tell myself not to scrap anything.
Right, sure.
Something you realize as a writer, it's all the editing process. You get whatever you can do down on the paper, and then you go from there and edit to make it look good.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Whereas when I was younger, I'd write, get halfway through, and was like, no, this is not good. Yeah. This is not good, and whoop, throw it away. But now I realize if I get stuck somewhere, you set it off to the side, give it a little time, and start working on something else. And then come back to that, and then you got to get that down on paper, and then edit, from there. So
That's cool.
editing makes everything look good. So.
Absolutely, man. I mean, so I like the fact that kind of sort of like, because I mean, if I were to answer that question, it would be sort of like because there was a time when I just stopped doing any artwork because sort of like, you know, particularly probably in my kind of teens to early 20s, and I just sort of thought, like, I just finished university and or going to university and thought I wouldn't be able to get a career in art at all, so I kind of tried to focus on other things which weren't really my forte at all. So I kind of like, I love the fact that you answered that question is not a case of sort of like, just keep on going, because you never in your mind did you not think you were going to be an author. That's awesome. Like, I love that. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
No, that's really, really cool. So I guess we're kind of like coming towards the end of the time we've got, I mean, sort of moving forward with Knights of the Northwest. Obviously, you've recruited a few authors into some of the anthologies that you have done and are doing. But what do you look for? You know, if there's some people watching this today and they're like, "Cool, I really like the sound of this. It sounds cool." Like, what do you look for in new writers that you meet and kind of would want to recruit into your clique?
That's a good question, Jamie. I would say, you know, first thing we look for is passion. You know, do you really want to do this? Do you enjoy doing it? You know, and then I think after that, really, it's just quality of work. You know, like I said, do you pour yourself into your work and make sure it looks the best it can possibly be? Yeah. And you know, really, if you got those two things, I mean, that's what we're looking for. So, okay, cool. Yeah, like I said, our Kickstarter goes live April 1st. We have, like I said, it's about monsters and monster hunters. Monsters and Valons is what the anthology will be called. Nice. So it's kind of a cool theme there. Yeah. And then we've got like approximately 15 stories that'll be in it.
It's gonna be a thick
quite a few. Yeah, it's gonna be thick. Yeah. Yes, definitely. Yeah, lots of cool stretch goals. You making a map for us if we.
Good plan. Yeah, like that. Excellent. I think at the bottom of the screen now there should just be kind of, you know, our names and addresses and emails and stuff going up, just kind of sort of like.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we're really excited about it. There's lots of cool stuff coming out.
So. This is your first Kickstarter, or have you done these before?
It is. It's our first Kickstarter and our second anthology. We got one thing out of the way, and something else is new for us. But
well, yeah, no, it's good though, man. I think it's a good way to do things and sort of like, and also build an audience that way as well. Have you kind of have you kind of felt that sort of process so far? Obviously, you've not kind of been through the campaign part yet, but the preparation is half the work. So
there's a lot of work of the preparation. I was very surprised how much. I was like, this wouldn't be too hard, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
so it's very time consuming.
You've got that kind of wall of text, like kind of like explaining what it is and stuff. There just has to be one typo in that for someone to like pick a hole in it and just be like, "Oh, this guy can't write at all." Like, kind of, you know, so you've got and that stress. Oh, it's just too much. It's too much.
I agree. I've gone over and over to make sure it looks good. Yeah. Like you said, I don't want anybody picking it apart.
No, exactly, it looks good. No, and I can't wait. And I'll be looking forward to watching the campaign. I'll be looking forward to receiving the book as well when I back it too. So. No, thanks very much for talking to me today. It's been awesome and really insightful into kind of you know, the publishing house that you run and the stuff you've got coming up and early experiences as well, which I think is really important because there's a lot of people who will be at that stage right now. So that's cool.
Oh yeah. Yeah, thank you for the invite. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries, man. We'll certainly talk, you know, more in the future, hopefully, and kind of, you know, maybe sort of meet up again and have another kind of chat after the Kickstarter and yeah. Let's,
that sounds great to me.
Let's see more of it.